world outside continued as usual, but inside me, time had slowed, each hour stretching into eternity. The unknown waited ahead, full of possibility and danger. And yet I could not stop. I could not escape. I had to face it. Pregnancy had taught me something essential, that fear is not weakness, that vulnerability is not failure, that trauma, anxiety, and doubt can coexist with love, hope, and courage. I would face this birth carrying everything. I would carry my fears, I would carry my pain, I would carry my hope, I would carry my love. Because life demanded it, because the child inside me deserved it, because in the quiet spaces between fear and anticipation, I had discovered a courage that could not be measured, only lived. The unknown was terrifying, but it was also where life began, and as I drew a shaky breath and felt the first stirrings of labor, I realized that survival had already begun long before the child entered the world. Pregnancy had broken me, reshaped me, and revealed the unthinkable strength I carried within me. The birth was coming, and I would meet it. Trembling, terrified, and ready. The closer the due date came, the heavier the world felt. Every morning I woke with a pit in my stomach, a cold, gnawing anxiety that no amount of preparation could soothe. It was no longer just about carrying a child. It was about stepping into a threshold I could not fully imagine, a threshold where everything I had known, everything I had prepared for, would meet reality. Fear lived in every fiber of me. I feared the pain of labor, the stretching, the tearing, the rawness I had only read about but could never truly understand until I felt it. I feared complications, the suddenness of danger, the fragility of life itself. I feared my own body, the way it might fail me when I needed it most. And unspoken but ever present, I feared the unknown in my husband's eyes. Would he break under pressure, or would he crumble silently, the way he sometimes did in quieter moments? Even joy became laced with anxiety. Every kick, every movement of the baby was a reminder that life had already begun, and that the responsibility was now mine, unshakable and absolute. My body became a battlefield. The aches grew sharper, the movements more difficult, the nights longer. Every step was calculated, every action weighed against potential danger. I felt imprisoned in my own body, yet somehow it was the same body that was preparing to bring life into the world. Pain was no longer just physical, it was emotional, psychological, spiritual. It was a warning and a reminder. It was both mine and not mine. My husband and I moved together, yet apart. He tried to remain calm, tried to carry his silent weight alongside mine. Sometimes I could see the strain in his eyes, exhaustion, fear, and worry all layered together. We held hands, shared small smiles, exchanged words of reassurance, but there was an unspoken tension, the knowledge that soon everything would change. I feared what that change would demand. I feared whether we would survive it, together and individually. The waiting was unbearable. Days stretched endlessly. Nights were long and silent except for the constant reminders from within me, the tiny movements of life, each one demanding attention, each one echoing with possibility and peril. I lay awake, imagining every scenario, the birth I hoped for, the complications I feared, the life we could provide, the life we might not. My mind spun, unable to rest, unable to stop preparing for every possible disaster. And yet, there were moments of courage. I discovered strength I had never known, strength in my own body, in its endurance, strength in my mind, in its ability to face fear without giving in to panic, strength in my heart, in its capacity to hold love for someone not yet born while carrying fear for myself. Even my husband, silent but present, became a pillar I could cling to, even as he carried his own fear with equal weight. We were both terrified. We were both exhausted. And yet, we faced the unknown together. Anticipation became a double-edged sword. Every contraction, every strange feeling, every doctor's visit intensified both hope and fear. The world outside continued as usual, but inside me, time had slowed, each hour stretching into eternity. The unknown waited ahead, full of possibility and danger. And yet I could not stop. I could not escape. I had to face it. Pregnancy had taught me something essential, that fear is not weakness, that vulnerability is not failure, that trauma, anxiety, and doubt can coexist with love, hope, and courage. I would face this birth carrying everything. I would carry my fears, I would carry my pain, I would carry my hope, I would carry my love. Because life demanded it, because the child inside me deserved it, because in the quiet spaces between fear and anticipation, I had discovered a courage that could not be measured, only lived. The unknown was terrifying, but it was also where life began, and as I drew a shaky breath and felt the first stirrings of labor, I realized that survival had already begun long before the child entered the world. Pregnancy had broken me, reshaped me, and revealed the unthinkable strength I carried within me. The birth was coming, and I would meet it. Trembling, terrified, and ready.
The world felt different after the birth. I had survived the storm, but nothing felt easy. My body was no longer my own, wounded, swollen, and aching. Every movement brought reminders of what I had endured. Every glance in the mirror showed me a stranger, someone both fragile and indestructible. The baby was beautiful and terrifying. I had imagined this moment countless times, but the reality was overwhelming. Tiny hands, tiny feet, and a life so dependent on me that I felt both awe and terror at once. I wanted to hold it forever, to protect it from everything, and yet I felt unprepared, unsure if I could meet every need, every cry, every demand. Even the act of feeding was a battle. Every tear that slipped from the baby's eyes pierced me like a knife. Every restless night reminded me that love was no longer theoretical. It was raw, relentless, and unending. Exhaustion became a shadow I could not shake. I had barely slept since labor. Nights blurred into days. My mind screamed for rest, but there was no rest for a mother. Each cry pulled me from the edge of sleep. Each movement demanded attention. My body ached in ways I didn't know possible, and my heart felt stretched across invisible lines of responsibility, worry, and love. And yet, I kept going. I had to. The trauma of pregnancy followed me home. Memories of fear, isolation, and anxiety lingered. I flinched at sudden sounds. I panicked when the baby's breathing changed even slightly. My body remembered the nights I cried alone, the fear that clawed at me when I imagined what could go wrong. Sometimes I would break down quietly, collapsing onto the bed while the baby slept beside me, tears streaming down my face. My husband would come and hold me, his presence a lifeline, and for a brief moment the weight lifted, but it always returned. Trauma leaves traces that no birth can erase. Love became a strange, piercing force. I loved this tiny life more than I could have imagined, and yet the intensity of that love brought fear, guilt, and exhaustion. I questioned myself constantly. Am I enough? Am I doing it right? Am I failing? Every decision, every movement, every sound seemed monumental. I realized that motherhood was not just caring for the child, it was carrying the weight of your own fear, trauma, and expectations while learning to bend without breaking. My husband and I began to understand each other differently. The silent support, the small gestures of presence, the late-night conversations and whispers, they all became more vital than ever. We were no longer just partners in life, we were guardians in the storm. His exhaustion mirrored mine, yet together we discovered a new rhythm. Even in our fragility, there was strength.
Amid pain and fear, there was hope. Every tiny smile from the baby felt like a miracle. Every small milestone, a burp, a yawn, a grasp of my finger, was proof that we could survive this chaos. Every quiet moment of connection reminded me that trauma and love could coexist, that fear and courage could coexist, that exhaustion and hope could coexist. Motherhood was nothing like I had imagined. It was harder, darker, messier, but it was also more beautiful than I could have imagined. Pregnancy and birth had tested me, reshaped me, broken me, and yet, through it all, it had made me stronger. I was no longer just a woman carrying a child. I was a survivor, a protector, a mother. And in the quiet moments, holding the tiny life I had nurtured through fear, trauma, and pain, I understood something profound. Love is not just an emotion, it is endurance, it is sacrifice, it is surviving the storm, even when the storm feels endless. Even when the world expects perfection, even when fear and trauma linger, love and hope remain.
The storm had passed, or at least the part that was visible, but I knew the echoes would remain. Pregnancy, birth, and the first days of motherhood had left marks on my body, my mind, and my heart. Marks that no one could see, but I could feel with every breath, every heartbeat, every thought. I had survived more than I imagined. The nights of fear, the silent tears, the arguments with my husband, the relentless expectations from the world, they had tested me to the edge. And yet, I was still standing. My body was tired, my mind weary, but my spirit carried something that fear could not touch: resilience. I realized that survival does not mean the absence of fear or trauma. It means continuing despite it. It means finding light in darkness, hope in despair, and love in moments that feel unbearable. Love had changed. Not the simple, easy kind of love I had imagined in fairy tales or movies. No, this was love forged in pressure, molded in anxiety, tested by expectation, and strengthened by trauma.
And there you have it, a journey through fear, pain, and the unyielding strength of the human heart. As a doctor, I have witnessed many stories of motherhood, but few carry the raw honesty and courage we just heard. Carol's experience reminds us that pregnancy is not only about joy and expectation, it is about vulnerability, resilience, and the quiet battles that often go unseen. Her story is a testament to the power of speaking our truths, of acknowledging fear, and of finding strength even in the darkest moments. It is a reminder that behind every expectant mother is a story worth hearing, a journey worth honoring, and a life filled with courage that cannot be measured by any chart or scan. As you reflect on this story, I invite you to carry it with you, to understand, to empathize, and to recognize that the journey of motherhood is as much about the heart as it is about the body. Every fear faced, every tear shed, and every triumph earned shapes a story that inspires, heals, and connects us all. Thank you for joining me today and for opening your hearts to a story that is real, profound, and unforgettable. Remember, behind every life that begins, there is a mother whose strength makes it possible. Once again, if you have not subscribed to this channel, leave whatever you're doing right now and like, share, subscribe, and comment on this channel to enable us get feedback from you and improve our communication and interaction with you as we prepares our subsequent episodes. Please press the subscription button now. Keep a date with me in Dr. Charlotte's Corner by subscribing and pressing the notification button to get immediate notification on our next episode, pregnancy fears and trauma, will my husband still love my looks after 2 to 3 births? Keep a date with Dr. Charlotte's Corner on the coming episode. Stay tuned.